第2問。
For Richard Gordon, origami is like a piece of music. While an individual fold may not be particularly impressive, many together can make the paper sing. A floppy sheet can transform into a flapping bird, a floating boat, a blooming flower, or in the case of Gordon's latest endeavor, a face mask. It's a kind of alchemy, says Gordon, the founder and CEO of Air 99 LLC. Gordon is one of a growing number of mask designers who see the promise of better fit, function, and even fashion in the ancient art of origami. He began crafting masks more than a decade ago in Suzhou, China, when he couldn't find a mask that properly fit his son to protect against air pollution. But the pandemic has given Gordon and other designers' work fresh urgency. As we wait our turn in the vaccination line, donning a mask is a critical measure, along with social distancing, ventilation, faster testing, and more, to help slow the spread of SARS-CoV-2. Newly inaugurated President Joe Biden is calling for all Americans to wear a mask during the first 100 days of his term, and he signed new executive orders requiring masks in federal buildings, on federal lands, and on many planes, trains, public ships, city buses, and in airports. We're entering what may be the toughest and deadliest period of the virus, Biden said during the inauguration. We must set aside politics and finally face this pandemic as one nation. Masks may also become a mainstay after the pandemic to help keep both viruses and pollution at bay. While masking is already part of daily life in other countries, that hadn't been the case for the United States. But a recent National Geographic and Morning Consult poll signaled a shifting attitude in the U.S. toward masking up. Some 63% of 2,200 American adults said they would continue to always or sometimes wear a mask while running errands post-pandemic. A similar number, around 64%, said they would turn to masks to fend off air pollution. And 67% said they would mask up during flu season. Yet there's a long list of mask complaints. Some flat coverings quickly turn into moist bits of cloth pressed across your face. Others can lead to a feeling of suffocation. Even though cloth and medical masks allow plenty of oxygen through for healthy adults. And while all masks afford some level of viral protection, some are more effective than others. Origami holds promise to help alleviate many of these woes. The first major hurdle for origami mask designs is material. The mask isn't a simple sieve. Instead, the material is more like a maze for particles. The more chances the particles have to run into a wall, the better the filter works. 2 or 3 layers are better than 1. And materials with less orderly structures, like the non-woven polypropylene of an N95 mask, make better filters. But most common fabrics are no good for origami, which requires rigidity in order to hold folds. One potential solution is a polypropylene material commonly used in hospitals to wrap surgical instruments, explains Xu Yang, a professor of materials science and engineering at the University of Pennsylvania. She and her colleagues turned to this wrap during the early days of the pandemic when protective gear was running short. A study of one common wrap called Halyard H300 suggested that 3 layers of the material could achieve a filter efficiency close to N95 masks, the gold standard for filtration, which block at least 95% of 0.3 micron particles and even increase in efficiency for both larger and smaller particulates. What's more, the wrap is readily available in large sheets and is stiff enough to hold folds. Last spring, Yang and her colleagues delivered 10,000 origami masks made of the wrap to the University of Pennsylvania's medical school in case of shortages. Another solution for holding a crease is creating an outer skeleton of stiff material. Air 99's Airgami mask, for example, is made of a flexible N95 grade filter fused with a more rigid and foldable layer. Since the outer structure doesn't allow air to pass through, it's punched with holes so air can reach the filter layer. and tests suggest that these materials can be sanitized with heat and reused multiple times. Other materials that are more readily available to the public can also be effective for some folded mask designs, says Jonathan Realmuto, a postdoctoral researcher at the University of California, Irvine. For example, non-fiberglass MERV 13 filters, which are commonly used for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, are particularly effective and available at most hardware stores. Finding the right material is just the first step of crafting an effective mask. It doesn't matter how good the filter is. If you don't have a good fit, says John Volkins of Colorado State University, who led an intensive testing effort to document the filtration efficiencies for an array of materials. When improperly designed or worn, masks can have gaps around the nose or cheeks, allowing entry and exit points for potentially virus-laden particles to flow. And closing these gaps is where origami truly shines.
出典
We need better face masks, and origami might help.
中
Floppy, soft and not able to keep a firm shape or position. Flap, to wave something, especially wings when or as if flying. Alchemy, a type of chemistry, especially in the Middle Ages, that dealt with trying to find a way to change ordinary metals into gold. Don, to put on a piece of clothing. Ventilation, the movement of fresh air around a closed space, or the system that does this. Inaugurate, to put someone into an official position with a ceremony. Mainstay, the most important part of something, providing support for everything else. Keep something at bay, to prevent something unpleasant from harming you. Fend off, to prevent the effects of something. Sieve,
ふるいざる
polypropylene. Particulate,
微粒子
fuse, to join together physically, or to join things together physically. Sanitize, to make something completely clean and free from bacteria. Laden, carrying or holding a lot of something.
問録1
It was not until the COVID-19 pandemic happened that Gordon founded his company and worked as the CEO to produce a mask for his child.
2
If there were not holes punched into the surface of the origami masks of Gordon's company, it would not be possible for users to breathe because the outer materials don't allow air to pass through.
3
Origami masks prevent viruses from entering human bodies thanks to a special chemical on the surface rather than because of their complicated folding structures.
4
Although Joe Biden preferred the need for political unity within the nation to a policy of preventing the spread of SARS-CoV-2, he required people to wear masks no matter where people were in the United States.
5
According to a poll, the percentage of people who will wear masks to protect themselves from influenza is slightly lower than that of those who will put on protective gear in the post-pandemic world.
6
Well-designed origami masks do not only protect users by a perfect covering of their noses and cheeks, but they could also resolve problems caused by other kinds of masks.